My name is Victor Fuhrman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. We all want to know the secret to leading a long, happy life. So who better to ask than someone who is 102 years old, and all the more qualified as a doctor and the mother of holistic medicine. This expert is my guest this week on Destination Unlimited, Dr. Gladys McGarey. Dr. McGarey shares a philosophy for living life to the fullest that has healed thousands of patients and that has guided her life for more than a century. Her website is GladysMcGarey.com, and she joins me this week to share her amazing path and new book, The Well-Lived Life, a 102-year-old doctor's 6 secrets to health and happiness at every age. Please join me in welcoming to Destination Unlimited Dr. Gladys McGarey. Welcome, Dr. McGarey.
Thank you very much.
Dr. McGarey, please share with our listeners your early path and how it led to your calling as a physician.
Well, my parents were medical missionaries in India, in the foothills of the Himalayas, and they went to India in 1914 when World War I was in full bloom. The U-boats were in the water and so on, but they got to Bombay and went up north of India. And I was born in India. In fact, my mother went into labor at the Taj Mahal with me.
Wow.
So anyway, it was a very wonderful way to grow up with my parents taking their medical work back into the jungles of North India. And the beautiful thing is that I watched them work with the village people who had nothing really in the way of life things. They had their house and their children and what they lived by, but they had nothing in the way of huge events that they could call their own. However, my parents brought their medical work there, and all they had in equipment was a trunk that had some things in it and a tent, and we lived in tents. So as far as medical equipment or anything like that, they didn't have much, but they had hearts full of love. And it's what they brought to the people of India, who were the forgotten ones, the essence of what I came to understand healing was all about. And so when I was 2 years old, I let my parents know that I was a doctor too. And the thing was that my dolls were the ones that got sick. So my sister wouldn't let me play with her dolls because mine were the ones who had to be taken care of. Uh-huh. It was that kind of a reality in a world that is, well, how real is that? That's as real as you get.
Absolutely. In India, they believe in reincarnation. Do you think that you were reincarnated and had been a physician in a past life?
Yes, many times.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You had the wonderful opportunity to meet Mahatma Gandhi as a child. What did you learn from him?
I was 10 years old. We were just on the way to come back to the United States because every 7.5 years, my parents had a furlough and they got to come home to their family and so on. But we were on the train and we were going from Roorkee to Bombay, and the train came to a station and was slowing down, but there was this huge crowd of people. India always has crowds of people, but this was a whole crowd of people that was chanting. And in front of the crowd was a man walking along, a small man, dressed in a dhoti, which is the Indian loincloth, and walking with a staff. And people were chanting, Gandhiji, Gandhiji. So I knew about Gandhi, but in the train with my face pasted against the window, trying to see what's going on out there. And I saw Gandhi stop at the head of the crowd and reach down and take a flower from a little girl. And his face was just in line with my face planted on the window and his face in front of me. And when he looked up from that little girl, he looked straight into my eyes. Now, I can never explain to anybody else except myself what it was that happened. But at that point, there was a connection between Gandhi and me. And I knew it, and I knew that he knew it. And there was a reality that didn't leave me. In fact, it was held within our family in that when the partition of India happened, and Gandhi was working with the Hindus and Mohammedans trying to get themselves to stop killing each other, my parents, they worked with him in that they had a little medical unit that they took and went to the camps where this was going on and helped with the healing and the burying of the dead and all of that. And they worked from the platform to talk to the people, like on the stage with Gandhi. Enough so that they became friends, and Gandhi gave my mother a cashmere shawl, which I have in my closet here, and my dad a Panipat blanket. So it was that kind of a family, intimate, personal relationship with me, extended into the ongoing family relationship, which was the love and healing of the people of India. And Gandhi, our messages were the same. Of course, I wasn't there at that time. I was in college.
And what year did you begin your medical practice?
It depends on what you call it. No, I started medical school in September of 1941, and the World War II started in December 7th, 1941. So all during my training, we were taught about killing. The whole focus of medicine was killing diseases and getting rid of pain. And so that's what I learned. But I really didn't learn that. I didn't accept that to be the whole picture, because I knew what I had experienced personally. And I was asking questions or doing something that was bad enough that the dean of the medical school sent me to the psychiatrist 2 different times. And the psychiatrist sent me back and said, no, I was okay to go become a woman doctor. There were very few women doctors at the time. I was in the only women's medical college in the country. We started with 50 students and ended up with 25 because the concept was that it was going to be harder and for men for us to do it. And we were supposed to be smarter and tougher and so on. So it was in 1941 that I was introduced to the medical community, the allopathic medical community. But it was in 1946 that I actually started my practice after going through my residency and so on.
And what bias did you experience as a woman physician in the early years of your practice?
I can't tell things like this without telling stories. So when I started my internship at Dignus Hospital in Cincinnati, they had never had a woman doctor there before. And so they had places for men to sleep when they were on call, but there was no place for me. So I had an x-ray table and a blanket and a pillow. But I didn't mind that because I was so pleased to have gotten the internship, the training and so on. So I was more interested in what I was able to receive than it was the fact that they didn't think I was, well, I don't know what, I wasn't accepted by the medical community. And the resident in the community of the hospital there was so sure that I didn't belong that he kind of made it his mission to get me out. I had met my husband, and he was in medical school, and when I was doing my internship, I was pregnant with my first son, and this resident knew three things: one, that women didn't belong in medicine; two, that I didn't belong in medicine; and certainly pregnant women didn't belong in medicine. So with those three things, he gave me the opportunities to work with the surgeons in their surgery, but he gave me the hardest, the ones that started earliest in the morning, surgical procedures. So I'd start at 7:00 and be on my feet without food for 5 hours, maybe. And I was just hanging on by the skin of my teeth. But I had one thing that I was working with, and that was that there was no way he was going to get me out of this. And he certainly wasn't going to kill this baby that I was carrying. So I hung in there. But then all through my life, this has happened. Alive people become angels for me. So one night in the middle of about 2:00 in the morning, I was there on call with my blanket and my pillow. And so I had a call to go down to the floor. I got off my table and walked down the hall past where the list was, where we were, our schedule. And always my name was at the top of the list, but I come down this time, and Lucille, who was the little maid on our floor who did the cleaning and so on, she had pulled a chair up and was erasing my name at the top at 7:00 and putting Carl Ferber's name down at about 8:00 or 9 or so. So she really saved my life. And it was like, if she had been caught, she would have lost her job. She saw what I was working with and how I was struggling to make this happen. And she stepped up. And interestingly enough, that this son that I was carrying became an orthopedic surgeon. So he got his training in utero too.
That's wonderful. And this woman had the empathy and the compassion and the courage to do the right thing.
Throughout my life, there have been, I call them living angels.
What changes in medicine have you witnessed over the last 60 years?
It depends on what aspect of medicine we're looking at. The whole field of medicine, in my opinion, still has not grasped the fact that, what we were taught in medical school and what's still being focused on is that the body and the mind and the whole concept that beyond that, there was nothing that they want to work with. And we're better about it now, because after we started the American Holistic Medical Association and you started the work that you're doing, and people began to work and look at higher aspect of healing, it has changed, but still the focus is on killing disease and eradicating pain. In fact, enough so that when I was in medical school, when a woman was in labor, what we did, and my first two sons, I birthed this way. The woman was completely anesthetized. So it was called twilight sleep. Completely anesthetized so that when it was time for her to push, she couldn't push. We had to use forceps to deliver her. And I was very good at this. We were well trained in doing that. I was able to help with an after-coming head and a baby and so on. But what we did in the process of trying to eliminate the pain in labor, take away the power of all the women that were having babies. We just did. To this day, we talk about having to be delivered by our babies. That shouldn't be said. We don't need to be delivered by our babies. We birth our babies. Doctors are there, when midwives are there to help, and all of that is very, very important. But the whole concept that we have taken away our very essence as women of being the people that who have to birth the baby. And so my focus has been to help us reclaim the whole concept of loving birth, because that's what we need to get back to anyway. It was what was taught. I learned. I spent a lot of time when I began to get some understanding about this, sort of regretting the fact that I had done the forceps work, but I really, that there's no sense in beating yourself up for something that you did because you were taught and because that's the way it was at the time.
You co-founded the American Holistic Medical Association. How daring and different was the idea of holistic medicine when you first tried to popularize it?
I can't even use the words that were thrown at us when we were doing this. And the fact that people really didn't understand the concept of holistic medicine. When we did start it, there were 5 of us who did get it. I was the only woman, but we had one weekend where we really were the 5 of us who were really understanding this, my husband and I and 3 other men. Even after we got that started, it took us 2 years to realize what we were talking about and how to spell it. Because, the whole concept that we were working with was based on the root word, but it had to be started with an R instead of a W. The holistic that we were talking about was not spelled with a W, it was spelled with an H. Health, healing, and holy.
You also founded the Academy of Clinical Hypnosis. How is clinical hypnosis used as a healing tool?
Well, Milton Erickson was just beginning to do his work, and it was in 1955. And we became friends, and we started a sort of a Tuesday night study group in our home while we were working with the whole aspect of hypnosis, the way he was looking at it. So Milton Erickson understood the depth of healing that was associated with our heart and our inner spirit. He didn't call it the physician within the patient, but we started calling it that. And so then he took that. Actually, it was an amazing time because the whole concept of what nutrition was doing with the book Silent Spring had just, it was just being published. And so we were putting a lot of attention into diet and how it was affecting the whole process. And that was considered really, really stupid. Stone ground whole wheat bread. It was, but we knew what we were looking for. We had gotten interested in the Edgar Cayce work. So Hugh Lynn Cayce was a good friend of ours. We started a study group in our home in 1957 and had it going for 60 years. And let me tell another story. My oldest son, the one I was pregnant with, when he had finished his training in orthopedic surgery, he came through Phoenix and he was going down to Del Rio, Texas to start his practice. And he said, Mom, I'm going out into the world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hands. I don't know if I can handle that. And I said to him, well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But if you can understand that it's your job to do this amazing work, which you've been taught to do, which is orthopedic surgery. If I have something broken in my body, I want a good orthopod to be the one that's working with it. But after you've done your job or in the process of doing your job, you contact the physician within that patient because that's your colleague. That's the person who's going to really do the healing. You'll support that patient as you go along. I mean, that colleague as you go along within the patient. But that's really the only way that healing is going to happen is if the patient does the things that the inner aspect of their being, which is that physician within, which Jesus talked about, it's the whole reality that we are true human beings that are different. See, do you mind if I just ramble with these stories?
Absolutely, please do.
Okay. I have this concept that when God created the world, he looked and he saw it was really good. I mean, this is a really good thing. And so then he created the human being. And he said to us, I now give you dominion over this amazing aspect of the world that's been created. And so we, in our arrogance, took that and said, wow, look, this is what we can do because we have free will and we have choice and all of that. And we thought he said domination. He didn't say I give you domination. We're not supposed to dominate the world. We have dominion over it. Dominion means you take care of things. And so what I'm feeling now in the way people are responding to this new book of mine and the way I've been working so many years is that people are now reaching for their true humanity. That aspect of our inner being that is who we're truly expected to be, because we have this amazing aspect of our being that is the free will, which we've abused.
The wisdom of Dr. Gladys McGarey. Dr. McGarey's book is called The Well-Lived Life, a 102-year-old doctor's 6 secrets to health and happiness at every age. Please tell us where the listeners can get your book and find out more about you and your amazing work.
It's GladysMcGarey.com. That's one. And then the Foundation for Living Medicine. .org.
The Foundation for Living Medicine.org. And we'll be back with more after these words on the OMTimes Radio Network.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
If I could be you.
And you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Dr. Gladys McGarey, her book, The Well-Lived Life. Please share something you've learned in your 102 years about living life to the fullest.
Well, I have six secrets. And the last one is use your juice wildly. The idea of that is don't try to store it up. Energy is energy, and energy has to move. And energy, if it's not being used, it'll die. So the whole process of life is allowing ourselves to be alive and loving it. I also have 5 L's that are the secret too. They sort of underlie the others, secrets that we've talked about. But these 5 have helped me give some foundation structure to my philosophy. The first one is life. Life as it is like a seed in the pyramids. It's within its shell, and it can't do anything. It's got all the energy of the universe within that shell, but it can't do anything until love, in the form of water and air and sunlight and so on, activates the shell by allowing it to crack. And then life could come, and life could grow, and life becomes one with the whole process of love. Because love and life together are the yin and the yang. They're the male and the female. They're the good and the bad. They're the dual aspect of our humanity on this whole universe that is a dual universe. So it's that important connection of love with life that is really, really important, not just to healing, but to life itself. The third L is laughter. Laughter without love is cruel. It's mean. It breaks people's families up. It's just not fun. But laughter with love is joy and happiness. And the fourth one is labor. Labor without love. Oh, you got to go to work. It's drudgery. You too many diapers. This is just too hard. But labor with love is bliss. It's why you do what you do. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's why a singer sings. It's why a painter paints. You work harder than you ever probably worked before you understood of this, but bliss is what comes from working with the whole process of hard work and just hanging in there, And the fifth one is listening. Listening without love is the clanging gong. It's just not heard. You don't hear anything if you're not really listening. So those 5 L's kind of give me the structure of my philosophy, and then this book that has come out enhances that. It takes those 5 and makes them so that we as people can really use them in our lives in everyday ways.
I wrote a poem called The Gift of True Listening. May I share that with you?
Oh, please.
There often are words that need to be heard without cutting in or positioning. Your heart will be stirred and compassion conferred as you offer the gift of true listening. You'll create sacred space while bestowing great grace, with love all around you glistening. It may be any place where a soul you embrace as you offer the gift of true listening. So gift someone near you by saying, I hear you, lifting them up with your christening. And one day when you're due, you will be heard too, receiving the gift of true listening.
Thank you, because that's so important in the whole field of healing. I mean, it's vital. I was talking to a neurologist friend of mine the other day, and he's working with some residents, and they were at the hospital, they were ready to go into the room for a patient, and the resident said, you mean I have to go into the room? And he said, well, yes. And she said, well, that's silly. Has Alzheimer's. He doesn't understand anything I would say. And this friend of mine, who's been an amazing physician, he says, now listen, you have 2 patients in that room. The wife is sitting there while she's working and watching, but she's supporting him all the way through this. And the only way you can even do anything is to love the 2 of them enough that you listen to what she's going to be saying and watch what the body of the husband is saying. You've got a double thing. So it's I think it's sad that we haven't learned your poem, because to me it's so important to hear what the patient's saying. One of the things that I've asked patients for years is why are you, what's your life purpose? What do you think you're here for? And so many people have never, ever thought about that. It's you say, what? For me, it's been a pivotal question to be able to ask, to be able to have the patient start thinking about the fact that maybe there's a reason for their being here. I like to think of it as a huge jigsaw puzzle in the world, the life. Everybody has a spot, a piece within this jigsaw puzzle of life. And you can't fit in, another piece doesn't fit in your spot. I've tried putting pieces that don't fit in. There's no way you can get a piece in. And if you've done a 1,000-piece puzzle and you come to the end and you've lost one piece, you drive yourself crazy trying to find that one piece. It's that importance of our own individual juice, our own reason for being here. And I think that's the thing that the field of medicine has really lost, that love and life are united in the act of our being here.
Absolutely. Let's get a little juicier now. How did an elephant help you find your juice?
Well, my parents were out in the jungles, and I have a tiger skin on my wall here, not because my parents were there for a reason that had to do with healing, and the villagers were subjected to these big animals that could just come and ravage a whole village, the leopards and the tigers and so on. And so my parents, my dad and my brothers, my older brothers, had gone on a hunt. And so my mother and my sister and brother were there with her. And at that point, I was probably 9 years old or something. And I thought I was a physician. I had appointed myself as a physician. And so I was helping her with the work. The patients were sitting around on the ground, and Mom was doing her medical work and so on. And here, all of a sudden, into the camp walks a mahout, the elephant boy, and his elephant. And he walks up to my mother and he says, "This is the Maharaja's favorite elephant." And we were on a hunt, and it stepped on a bamboo stump, and it's not healing. It's not doing well. And the Maharaja wants you to look at it. And my mother says, "Oh my, I don't treat elephants." So the Mahout says to her, "You're a doctor?" Well, she says, "Oh yes, I treat elephants." So I helped her, and she walked up to this elephant. Now my mom was 5'1". Elephant's leg was bigger than she was. So she's standing there patting its leg and its snout and talking to it, and telling it that she's going to do what she can, and she hopes it doesn't hurt too much. And she just talking to the elephant like she talks to the patients that she was, whether man or woman or what. And the elephant is not moving. I was looking at this elephant. I don't think it even blinked an eye. It's just standing there perfectly still. And my mother tells me to go get the basin of potassium permanganate and this syringe and these forceps. And so I knew what she was talking about, and I went and got it. And she worked around at the foot of the elephant and found that a 6-inch long splinter of the bamboo was stuck in the pad of the foot. And so she worked around with it and removed it, all the time telling the elephant what she was doing and what was going on. They were communicating. And she pulled it out and then syringed the whole thing and put some ointment on it and told the mahout what to do when he left. And I'm there working with him all this time. And that elephant was so happy. I mean, we all knew he was happy. And the mahout, we were camped on the edge of the Ganges River. So the mahout allowed us to walk down to the Ganges with the elephant. And then we had the elephant picked us up and put it on his back. And we were, just had a wonderful day. And so the next day, the elephant comes back into camp, but it doesn't stop. It just walks straight into our camp where my mother was and puts his snout around my mother, picks her up, and gives her a hug with his nose, And so she's laughing and she's patting him on the trunk and saying, "Now be a good boy and put me down. Now just be a good boy and put me down." And the elephant did. What I got from that, sort of like the same thing I got from looking into Gandhi's eyes, was the reality of life itself and how I was being given opportunities to see how we need to work together, how life needs to connect with life. The one thing that I have that is more important than anything else is loving that patient. And if I can actually put my energy into loving that patient in whatever way I can understand from the way they're presenting themselves to me, then that's the way I have to work with it. It's a ongoing, amazing, glorious road to walk.
The wisdom of Dr. Gladys McGarey. Her book, The Well-Lived Life, will be back with more after these words on the OMTimes radio network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for inspired conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Dr. Gladys McGarey, her book, The Well-Lived Life. You talked about the L, and one of the L's you were talking about was labor. I had a wonderful spiritual teacher who used to say there should be an 11th commandment, thou shalt have purpose. How important is purpose to a well-lived life?
It's essential. That's why I ask my patients, what do you have to live for? What are you here for? We're here for a special reason. And it's such a for me, it's such a joy when that patient gets it and begins to take not just the responsibility, but the actual life-giving force that is there when they do accept the fact that they're here for a reason, and that reason is whatever it is. I mean, it's not something that I can tell them. I may know the family and might be able to give them some suggestions and so on, but the whole concept has to come from within themselves. And when that happens, that's the light from Gandhi. That's the light from the elephant. That's the light from, it's what life is about.
And one of those purposes can be contributing to your community. How can contributing to your community contribute to your own well-being?
It's so, if love is stopped, if it dies, love has to move. It's a energy that has to keep moving, and it moves as we share with others. I had a patient and a friend who moved into dementia, and so we had him, and he had a home in one of the homes here, and it was nice and all that. But I gave him a plant, a little plant to put in the window. And I said, James, this is your plant. And if you'll just take care of it, all you need to do is give it water and take care of it. Well, I didn't know if he was listening or not. But the next time I came in, he was so excited. He said to me, let me show you some magic. He says, here's magic, here's magic. And he walks up to the, he said, this box is magic. The air conditioning box, where the air conditioning is in his room. And he says, look at this. If I push this button, the room gets cool. And my plant likes it.
Mm.
He says, if I push this other button and the room gets hot, a plant doesn't like it.
Mm.
And now he didn't understand much of anything, except he knew that he was connected to that plant, and that plant was connected to him. And it really gave him something to live for. We have to have the reach to. There's so many people who feel alone, and who knows, when just a smile or a greeting to somebody in the grocery store or something, you never know when you may actually reach somebody. But if your intention is to love everybody, you don't have to like everybody. But if you love, there's a difference. if you love everybody and you just are there because that's what's who you are, it becomes real because love moves. Love has to move. It has to connect.
I'm an advocate for radical kindness, going out of our way to be kind to people, especially with the conditions in our world today.
Yes.
What is something that any of our listeners could start doing tomorrow to live life to the fullest?
Well, see, I'm a visual person, so I kind of like to look at it this way. I have a flashlight and in my hand, and I can turn it on and walk out into the dark, and that flashlight will show me as far as I can go, one step at a time and one step at a time. But as I'm shining my flashlight and walking my path, sometimes there's a little glimmer of light to the right or the left or something. And it's not a very strong light. It's just a little glimmer. But if I put my flashlight on that glimmer, boy, it lights up the whole place. And it's the sort of visual concept of reaching for our true humanity. We go together. We work together. We belong together. We're people who have a reason for being here. And as we hold our hands in the dance of life, that's where we go.
People are often amazed to find out that you have a 10-year plan. Would you share that with us?
I sure will. I'm really interested in a village for living medicine. I've changed the words of healing from holistic medicine to living medicine because I think that, well, because I understand the essence of life itself. And I think that, the Christ had to become flesh and dwell among us. I think that places on earth where the whole concept of this place is a village for living medicine, we can bring that kind of love back into and have Earth, Mother Earth's going to be really happy when people all over the world start making their villages for living medicine. It's a concept that is real. It's possible. I've seen. I have a friend who moved to Mexico, and she's had a lot of pain and all that kind of. But that little village that she moved into in Mexico, she's become the grandmother for that village, and everybody's friends. I mean, it's transformed that little village. One person can do that. Two people can do that. It's a reality that we humans are connected, and our juice is usable for each other because love and life have to go together. If you're not, if you don't understand that, life will die.
There is a wonderful word that has various iterations in Africa, but the one I'm familiar with is Ubuntu, Ubuntu, and it means I am because we are. That's what we're talking about.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
What would you like readers to take away from The Well-Lived Life?
The really understanding, not just talking about, but understanding that love is the great healer. The Bible starts out with God is love. Love is the great healer. And no matter what modality you're using, whether it's osteopathy, chiropractic, homeopathy, the attitude with which you're using that is what's as important, and I think more important than the actual modality itself.
It's the approach. It's the way we approach everything in life.
Right.
My guest, Dr. Gladys McGarey, her wonderful book, The Well-Lived Life, a 102-year-old doctor's 6 secrets to health and happiness at every age. One more time, please share with our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about you and your amazing wisdom and work.
All right, it's GladysMcGarey.com and the Foundation for Living Medicine.org.
I am so grateful that you gave us your time today and shared these wonderful, wonderful messages with our listeners.
Thank you for listening.
This was a pleasure. This is truly a pleasure for me in ways that I could not even begin to explain, but thank you. And thank you to our audience for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Fuhrman. Have a wonderful week.